Welcome back. Melissa, rising interest rates are putting more and more pressure on South Africans who are already barely getting by. Where are we heading?
Well, Andy, we will see with the South African Reserve Bank's announcement at the end of May if there will be a further 25 basis points hike. But let's see what we can do about that. Rising interest rates are giving indebted South Africans sleepless nights. Many are already cash-strapped, and analysts are expecting another 25 basis point hike later this month. That will bring the prime lending rate at banks to 11.5%. Now, since November 2021, rates have increased by more than 4 percentage points. Annaline van der Poel is the Chief Business Development Officer at Debt Rescue. Thank you for joining us, Annaline. Have you seen a rise in clients looking for debt counselling as a result of rising rates?
Good evening, Melissa. Yes, indeed. The last couple of months have definitely seen a dramatic increase in consumers seeking assistance, specifically because of the impact that the rising interest rates have had on them. Whether it be any kind of debt they have, especially if we look at items like bonds and vehicles, the impact on this on the monthly installments has really been significant and is really hitting consumers very hard on their budgets.
Annaline, it's putting homeowners and those with big vehicle loans under pressure as their loan repayments have been rising every second month. How do some of them maneuver through this?
Well, I think the most important thing that most consumers have had to do is really go back to budgeting. I now call it planning because I know most of them hate the word budget. But the reality is planning has become so important in how we get through every month. We've got to remember that consumers have not only been affected in their budgets on the debt side, but with inflation increasing, which is leading to the rise in the interest rate hikes, it means that on the one side, you are looking at your cost of living increasing, your food, your rent, your transport, your electricity, for example, have all gone up exponentially. We know fuel has gone up this week and sitting at record highs again. But that has led to them trying to curb inflation by increasing the interest rates, which means the debt portion of your budget has gone up significantly as well. So we are seeing pressure on budgets, and consumers are literally trying to, where there is still the ability to make these changes in their budgets if they still can.
Annaline, all this is external factors impacting us as consumers. Would financial institutions like banks, with regard to a bond repayment or car repayment, be open to making payment arrangements to pay a little bit less each month, but over a longer period?
Well, it's very difficult to say if a bank could look at that specifically when we're talking assets. Obviously, your agreement, your contract that you signed when you entered into this agreement would have very specific requirements. So if you try and negotiate by yourself, the likelihood's probably not very great that they would consider this. It's obviously up to them as individual institutions, but realistically speaking, at the end of the day, the cost at which they are borrowing money has, from the Reserve Bank has gone up, and therefore, they're passing it on, unfortunately, to the consumers.
So, Annaline, what is then your advice for those struggling with these repayments? What can they do?
Well, like I say, I think the most important thing to start off with is making sure that you budget. You really, really have to go and see, where's every cent going? Where are you applying it? Where's the opportunity to possibly make some lifestyle changes and cut? But if you've done that already, and the reality is many South Africans have already done that, and unfortunately many are having to turn to credit to literally put food on the table, is before you find yourself in a debt spiral where it's just getting progressively worse, is look at the remedy that's being provided by the National Credit Act, which is debt counselling. It's there. It's specifically created to assist over-indebted consumers and has never become more relevant than it is right now in times like we are facing at the moment. Remembering that debt counselling, as I said, is part of the National Credit Act. It prevents legal action. It gives the opportunity to reduce those monthly repayments and extend the repayment terms in a legal manner, giving the legal protection to the consumer and making sure that they still honor their debt obligations. We've got to remember the majority of consumers have the full intention of repaying their debt. They're just unable to do so currently based on the circumstances that are beyond their control.
Thank you so much, Annaline. That was Annaline van der Poel, the Chief Business Development Officer at Debt Rescue.